Okay, welcome to another episode of Derek Burleson Art. Today we're going to do a little painting, some sunflowers in a field, maybe a tractor up front. We're going to call this Morning Sunflowers. It's a Kansas morning sunflower field. I'm going to kind of make this a little bit more on the impressionism side with a little bit of realism. But I want the eye to finish. Alright, what I did on the canvas is I did a little brownish wash on there. And now I'm going into just almost pure yellow ochre. A little bit of water on the brush and gesso. And we'll kind of get that sky in there. Now, one thing on this, I changed my mind several times in this painting and didn't quite know what I wanted. I had some pictures that I looked at of some sunflower fields, some pictures of some tractors, but I just didn't know how I wanted it to lay out. So I changed like 3 or 4 times in this painting. And I kind of left it in there just so you could see where it was going and what the changes were. But it took me a little while to figure out what I wanted. Now I just went into that yellow, a little bit of white. The background's still a little bit wet, so it'll kind of blend in. Just going to kind of start putting my sun in a little bit. Then I take the brush, kind of give it that haze effect. And I'll change this sun 2 or 3 times before I'm done. I'll go in with just a little bit more of that almost pure gesso. Again, the sun is still a little bit wet, but I want to blend that a little bit more too. And I'll work on it 2 or 3 times. Then just kind of keep blending. Kind of find where you want. Now I'm just going to take that flat brush, find kind of where my land is going to be. And again, that'll fade way back later. Right now I've put it in kind of dark just so I can see it and add to it if I want. And then I'll blend all that in. Now on the sky, blended it in, I used a 2-inch brush just to get that in. And then my sun, I put that in with just a little filbert brush. I think it was a number 8 filbert brush. And now using the flat brush, and now I'm using that 2-inch to blend. If it gets a little dry on you, just spritz a little water on it. Lighten that up again. Like I said, I'll spend a lot of time going back and forth on the sun until I kind of figure out what I want, how big, how hazy, and I'll start just kind of pushing up in there. I wanted a little bit more haze around that sun, so that's why I'm doing this. And then I'll put the shape back in. I said I changed so many times, just wasn't sure. So I thought, I'm going to leave it all in here for you guys. You can see how your painting evolves or it changes. Some of the changes may be great, some of them not so great. Some of you might say, I wish you'd have left that like it was. And maybe I should have. But I just kind of figure as I go, because again, I have no sunset pictures to reference to. So this is just all in my head, and right now my mind's just not seeing the finished painting. So I'm just going to let it just keep going. Again, I'm going back in with that gesso, maybe a touch of yellow in there just to kind of brighten it up, putting that shape back in. Just kind of getting where that sun's going to be. And I think that's probably where I want it for now. Now I'm going to go into my little flat brush, number 2 flat brush, and I'm going to start putting the barn. It's going to be way back there, and it'll start out dark, just so I know where everything's at, and then we'll lighten it up, and then the sun will kind of wash it out. But here I just went into a little bit of the burnt umber, added maybe just a little yellow ochre, maybe even just a little touch of yellow to it. But I want it fairly dark at this point. That'll be the front of the barn. And we'll put its little roof and the side on here. And we'll kind of make it a little bit on the darker side, just so that's the shaded side a little bit. Again, no picture, so just kind of thinking, how would that barn look? Maybe even put in a couple of silos. That might really make it pop more. But again, just kind of getting the basic shape in here. I'll darken that right side just so you can see the shadow. Again, just using that number 2 flat brush, a little burnt umber, maybe a little yellow ochre in there. And I'm just going to kind of put a couple of little silos in there. Same color. Same brush. And you can adjust the size on them if you want. You can make them a little closer together, maybe one bigger, maybe both the same. Just trying to think of all the farms and the silos, and if you're looking across this field early in the morning, what would that farm look like? How pronounced would it be? How would that sun hit it? These are all things I'm thinking of right now. And again, no reference. So this is a paint from kind of memory type exercise I'm doing. And I do that quite a bit on paintings. Just try to paint something out of memory. You know, you might want to take a few things. Like I said, I took the tractor and some fields, and I went through several pictures and kind of decided what the field I wanted to look like, what the tractor wanted to look like. And I believe I found a picture. It was like on Free Picks or something like that. And I believe it was an AI generated tractor. Because as I started to paint it and put it on the canvas, I thought, it don't have a back tire on the other side. So I had to kind of put that in where I thought. But most of it disappears just because of the sun and all that. But it'll still show in there. Here I am back to brightening up that sun a little bit. Bringing it over. As you see, I spent quite a bit of time up here on the sky and the sun just to kind of get what I think. And now I'm going to go in and just darken that side a little bit. Now I did edit quite a bit of this. I think I got it down to like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, something like that. But the parts that I took out or I edited, shortened, was just repetitive things. So I show you how I started doing it, and then I may cut and there'd be more sunflowers or more field, or the tractor's done more, grasses are done more. But a lot of it just started being repetitive. And what I'm doing here is I'm just taking a little scruffy brush. Actually, I think I might be using my little comber brush here. And I'm just going into a little bit of the yellow, cadmium yellow, and yellow ochre. And I'm just going to start tapping in that looks like maybe some just indication there's something way back in that field. And I'm just going to kind of scumble around and tap, just trying to break up that surface so it looks like there's something way back in there. Right in here, I just kind of add some different brighter colors just so it kind of looks like it's sun's hitting it a little bit. See how that's kind of coming across, like that sun is just really bouncing off of those sunflowers. But it's just a tapping motion. Just go in and tap. Don't cover up all those darks you have in there. You want those lights to show the dark, and you want the dark to show those lights. See how it almost looks like there's something way back in there. It's just kind of bouncing across there. Just let the eye kind of finish what you're doing. And the eye will finish it. It'll go, oh, those are sunflowers. And it'll know that because we'll put more detailed sunflowers in the front. Now I'm just taking that brush, that 2-inch, and I'm just going to kind of blur that field a little bit, just so there's nothing sharp. I want it to look like it's way, way back there. And then the sunlight, when I put the rays in later, will actually wash a lot of that out. So I'm just blending as I go. See how I like it. Now I'm just going to put just a couple of rays in there. This is more for seeing how my light will be. And then I'll just kind of brush that across. See how that sun is kind of now blending in the sky. And now it's going to go across the farm there, giving it that washed out look. But now a lot of this will change up front. This is just kind of putting in where those sun rays will be. So now, as you can see, the sun rays up front are gone now because I've kind of blended more. Now I'm just taking a little round brush and just tapping in some little circles here and there to give a little more definition of the sunflowers. Maybe your eye is picking a sunflower out here and there. And again, that foreground's going to change a lot as we go through this. But I'm just tapping in some individual little sunflowers. And you can spend all the time you want. You can make this really defined. You can make it a lot more on the realism side, or you can make it more on the impressionism side. It's up to you how much time you want to spend, how much effort you want to put in, and what you're looking for your final picture to be. And I've noticed when I do my art shows and I do these craft fairs, I have a lot of paintings, and you've seen a lot of them where I paint them on the more realism side. And then I have a few of just very simple or impressionistic type paintings. And I have more people that flock to those and they look at those and they even buy some of those paintings that I normally would never look at, the more impressionism side of the spectrum. I that's not really my cup of tea, I guess you'd say, but for some people it is. So I paint them, and I enjoy them. I enjoy painting them, and I just try to give a little bit of variety for people. Now I'm just going in kind of punching in some bigger sunflowers as they're coming up. Remember, we're getting a little bigger as we go forward. And again, a lot of that will disappear just simply because of the sun will come across and wash it out. I kind of zoom in here, let you see there's really nothing defined. They're not perfect, they're just blotches. Now I'm going in with a little bit of that burnt umber, putting in just some little centers where the seeds would be. And now I wanted some more round, so I use the butt end of my brush and just tap it into paint, and you get a perfect little round circle with that. You can do stars that same way. Now again, remember I told you I go back to this sun several times through the painting. And I believe the end result painting turns out to be more of a yellowish sun, and the rays are a little more on the white side. I put in the yellow rays, and I really liked them, but they kind of disappeared coming across the field because of the yellow. All right, now just to get this foreground filled in, I just took some burnt umber, a little burnt sienna, and started scumbling in. And up front, now I just put a little Mars black into the burnt umber, and I'll just mix it all together. Because see how I want it to get darker as it gets forward. Again, I will tell you at this point of the painting, I still have no clue what's going to go in there. I do know a tractor's going in there, but that's it. That's all I know. And again, I'm just scumbling it in. Oh, using just a flat brush. I think I'm still using that number 8 flat brush. Going back to that little round brush. Just tap it in some more. And again, these are going to change. I think I end up going in and taking some of them out. I got a big old brown spot there on the right. I thought I'd just leave that in there to show you that it was a mistake. What I did is I was tapping in stuff, and I had way too much on the end of my brush, and it kind of blotted on there. So I'm like, just leave it. I'll show people how that little mistake, we can get rid of it later. I mean, I could have wiped it off right then, but we'll cover it up. Again, I'm just going in random. And a lot of those will disappear. So don't spend a lot of time, because when that sun comes across there, it's going to wash a lot of that out. And just tapping through. You can see that it just makes a nice little painting. Okay, now I've put the tractor in, and I kind of went around. My camera was going dead, so I plugged it in, moved it out of the way, and I drew in my tractor. And I thought, okay, then I'll show you what it looks like drawn in. And I put a few of those sunflowers going around it just to kind of give me my size. That's all that was for. Then I started kind of just painting on the tractor, painting it in, and the camera still wasn't charged, and I wanted to keep going. So I thought maybe I'll do a picture or a painting of putting in a tractor or a truck, and we'll do that from the start to finish. But again, a lot of times what I do on tractors, trucks, whatever it is, I'll find different pictures. I may put them together, or I find one that I like, a little piece of one, and I'll draw it, and I'll make it the size I want. And then I'll save that picture, that drawing, and I'll keep it for future paintings. Could turn out to be a little different tractor, could be a little different truck, maybe just a different color. And then I'll take like, not tracing paper, copy paper, and I'll put it down, I'll put the picture over it, I'll tape it down, and then I'll trace around my drawing, and then that way it's on there. I'm not trying to draw and erase and draw and erase, because on your canvas that takes a little time, and you can mess up your painting. So, and remember I told you earlier there was no, I think this was AI generated because there was no tire on the back. So I'll have to put a rear tire back over there, but that's okay. Right now I'm just taking that little the round brush, and I'm using just a little cadmium red. I think I got a little cadmium orange, and a little burnt umber, and I'm just kind of putting it. I want this to be kind of an old rusty tractor. It's been sitting there. It probably still runs. And then we'll start going back and highlighting with more reds. I really wanted to leave it kind of an old rusty tractor. Well, it's this color. But then I was afraid when I start putting the sun rays in that's really going to start disappearing. So I thought, well, let's make it a little bit more on the red side. Okay. You can see here I went with my little flat brush, that little number 2 flat brush. Going into that cadmium red light, maybe just a touch of cadmium orange in there. But mostly it's the cadmium red. Just going to go through and start adding a little more color to the tractor. And then in the end, before I put the rays in, I'll go almost into some pure cadmium orange, so it looks like that when that sun's coming across, it's going to go pow, and make light look like it's coming across there. Okay, and I'm just kind of touching it up. Just kind of seeing where maybe some light would hit a little bit more. I enjoy painting little trucks and tractors, things like that. They take a lot of time, depending on how detailed you want to get. Again, we could have sat there and we could have made this thing very detailed. We could have made a very realistic painting, but again, that takes a lot of time, and it just depends on what you're looking for. Here I wanted something with a little bit of both the impressionism and realism. And I just wanted that old Kansas sunflower farm in the morning. Also, I just kind of wanted your eye to finish this painting. Just gonna put some little details of, or not so much details, but just the hint of there's something in here. Maybe that's an old starter. Maybe there's a part of the manifold. Maybe a couple of parts in there that we really don't know what they are, and we don't really care. Again, this is just going to be very impressionism or impressionistic, if that's a word, but I want the eye just to kind of finish what it is. Didn't even say what kind of tractor it is. Is it a farmall? What kind of tractor is it? So I think it is an old farmall. Again, I believe the picture was AI generated when I was looking up things. So I just kind of have to use my own imagination. Just kind of putting a couple little shadow lines in there. Again, I went back to that round brush. Just going to go through and again see where light might pop across the hood. Again, just take your time. And to see where maybe there's a little detail. I think I'll bring that stack down a little bit more. Kind of where it would come through the hood on the tractor. Now I'm just going to maybe start highlighting just a little bit. Took a little bit of white, a little bit of that Mars black, just a touch, and a little bit of burnt umber. So I'm going to kind of make this look like it's a kind of an aluminum type muffler on there, or on the stack. But again, this is going to have some sun rays coming across it, and I really think that's going to make that pop coming across there. Okay, now you can see I decided, you know what, I'm going to throw a fence in there, an old stone fence. And again, I turned the camera off because I wasn't sure if I wanted it in there. So I just took made some gray out of the Mars black, titanium, or not titanium white, the gesso. And I just went through and I made some stones going across there. And now I've added a little bit of hooker's green going through, making a little bit of moss on there. The moss kind of disappears when the sun rays come across, and I'm just taking my little flat brush, taking a little bit of burnt umber, kind of tapping in where there might be some shadow lines. But I told you I changed my mind several times on this foreground. Now I'm just taking my little deerfoot or little scruffy type brush. You could use a little angle brush that's kind of smashed out. And I took a little bit of that burnt umber, maybe just a touch of Mars black, and I'm just tapping across there just to make a little stippling effect. It looks like different textures in the rock. And I'm spending a lot of time, or a lot more time than I should have, on this wall, because it's going to be covered by sun rays. It's going to really just kind of disappear, but it gives you good practice. Now I'm going to go in, just taking a little, like a little script liner brush or a little round brush, and I'm going to go into that pure cadmium yellow light, and I'll start making these sunflowers a little more realistic, putting a little more detail, I should say, just so your eye starts going, oh yeah, look at those sunflowers. And I start them small because I don't want them to be too big at first, and then I'll make some of them a little bit bigger, some will be small, and I'll just keep going through there and kind of filling in that area to the right with some sunflowers. And we'll put some little stems in there and some leaves coming off of, which again you can't really see when we're done because of the sun rays. So again, I went back, you saw how I was putting them in. I didn't want the repetitiveness because it just takes up a lot of time, because I have done a sunflower picture before where you can actually watch the steps of that. So now I went in and I took my hooker's green, a little bit of brown. I made a little trail, kind of a little road through there with just some burnt umber, a little bit of gesso, a little bit of yellow ochre. Then I went back with the hooker's green and I put the grasses in. Now I've added just a little bit of the yellow ochre, or I'm sorry, the cadmium yellow to the hooker's green, taking a little script liner brush, and I'm putting in grass detail. Again, I didn't take a lot of time, and I edited a lot of this out because a lot of it's just repetition, and I've done videos on grasses before that you've seen. So if you need a refresher on grass, there's others. But basically, you're just kind of thinning down that paint. Get the color you want. Thin it down to the consistency of ink. Just start laying them in. Just light strokes. Kind of make them go in different directions. They're not all perfectly straight. They're kind of laid over. And I highlight some of them. And even over on this shaded side a little bit, I've highlighted some of them. A little artistic license, but we don't know where those sun rays are going to bounce through there, bounce off that tractor and hit just some of those grasses and highlight them. But I'm just going to keep going through here, putting in grasses. Again, you can put in more. I mean, you can put in so many that it just takes on a super realism look. I'm just going to put in just enough to kind of let the eye know those are grasses. And then when we start putting the sun rays in, they'll really start to pop a little bit. Now I'm just going in with that cadmium yellow light and highlighting just some of those sunflowers. Make it so when that sun comes across there. Now this is where I went in with that cadmium orange, and I think I just went straight cadmium orange and just tapping in some highlights. Now I'm going to take my little maybe 3/4 inch brush, flat brush, and I'm just going to start putting some rays in there. And this is kind of where I'm using a little bit of cadmium yellow, just a touch of that gesso. Remember I told you I did the yellow first, and it just didn't quite seem to have the pop. So I just added a little more white as I went until I started getting it. I spent a lot of time on these rays just to get the color I wanted. And then when I was done, I thought, well, I made those rays maybe a little too much on the white side. But I left it because I knew it would dry a little bit on the darker side. And this is where you just take your time and put it in there. What I've done is I've taken a little bit of, I did a separate palette, and I put the gesso, a little bit of the cadmium yellow, and I spritzed it down till it's really wet. And then I put it a little bit on my brush, tap a little bit off so it wasn't real wet. And then that's how I get those rays. If you get one on there that's a little bit too bright, just keep going over it, or take you a brush and kind of fade it out, or take you a little paper towel and kind of wipe some of it off. I'm just going to keep going around there like this. Just add a little bit. And again, that may look a little bit white right now, but as it dries, a lot of that's just going to fade away. So I went a little bit more on the white side, just so I could see a little more. I just like how those rays are hitting around there. But yeah, this painting was a lot of fun. Hope you really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the process, but thanks for joining me. Have a great week, and I'll see you on the next painting.